I'm Stacy Grinsfelder.
And I'm Daniel Cantor.
And you're listening to True Tales from Old Houses, the mini-sode. Hey, Daniel.
Hello. How's it going?
Good. Yeah, very good. You and I actually, it's always funny when we start these because sometimes we've just spoken to each other, which is the case.
We just spoke.
We actually just interviewed Michiel Bruns from Bruns & Co., the linseed oil paint company. That was such an incredible conversation. I'm so excited.
Oh my God. He was so great. And I genuinely did not expect to learn very much. And I learned so much.
Yeah. I guess we should get to that later because before we launch into today's mini-sode, I do want to thank our sponsors, Sutherland Wells and Noonan Heritage Craftworks.
Thank you, friends.
Yeah. So back to Michiel, that interview is actually going to come out on next week's big episode, and you won't want to miss it. Like anything and everything you've probably wanted to know about linseed oil paint, we discussed.
Yes, we tried very hard to encapsulate all possible questions people might have, including us. So give it a listen.
I love that you use the word encapsulate too, which is a very petrochemical word instead of linseed oil paint word. But yes, here we go.
Pun intended. Not really.
So, hey, I got to start out today's mini-sode with a little bit of sad news.
Yeah.
I think I can do it. It's been a few days now, but a lot of you who might follow me on social media, Instagram in particular, Millie, my sweet lab, has been a part of Blake Hill House. She's been part of my Instagram presence for a very long time. And I had to say goodbye. So it was the end of her time here on Earth. I don't know what people believe. I don't even know what I believe, but her time had come and we had to say goodbye. So I thought I could talk about it. I can. I'll do my best here. So I know that for some people, a dog is just a dog. And I know you lost your Mecco this year. And it just is hard. It's very sad. And I consider her sort of a once in a lifetime pet and friend. She really was one of the good ones. And we're all going to miss her a lot. And probably everyone on my Instagram as well will also miss her. She was a huge part of what I do here at Blake Hill House.
Yeah. I had the very good fortune to meet Millie a couple times, and she was just as lovely and docile and so sweet as she appeared on social media. So I think I can speak for everyone when I say I'm so sorry for your loss. And
well, thank you. Thank you.
We miss Millie too. She's a good girl.
A truly beautiful thing is that, I had her for 12 years. I was her second owner. She was 13. She lived a nice, long life, mostly healthy until just, the very, very end. So it was her time.
Yeah. And that's all we can really hope for as pet owners is that the end is not a prolonged, painful, horrible thing.
Exactly.
I'm sorry, Boo.
Thank you. I don't talk about her much here on the podcast, but she was like I said, an integral part of Blake Hill House. So I felt like I needed to acknowledge it here on the show as well. All right. I got that out. I didn't even have to stop the recording or blubber into a tissue or anything.
No, that'll just hit randomly around 4 p.m. today.
Yeah, it is super bizarre. I'll hear a song on the radio that has absolutely nothing to do with anything, and that will set me off or whatever. You just never know. I never know when it's going to hit me. But yeah, let's talk about something else. What do you say?
I applied to get a dog.
Did you?
I don't think it's going to happen, but he's so cute.
Aw, well, gosh.
And I just sent in an application the other day, and I have a call with the adoption agency at 4.
I feel like there's a cross section of Old House people who really also are into dogs and rescue dogs and
specifically rescue dogs.
Yeah. So that's another reason why I feel very comfortable talking about it here on the mini-sode as well. But so this dog, do you want to tell us about the dog or is it just too much?
Well, I don't think it's going to happen at all, but I can tell you about him because I don't know. I'm not the kind of person who sees a cute dog and is like, come home with me. But he's so cute.
Aw.
He kind of looks like a little husky, but he's beige and he has blue eyes and he's 12 pounds.
Oh, how cute.
His name is Chip, the letter N, Dale.
Okay.
Which we would not be keeping.
I was just going to say, are you the kind of person that keeps the name? Because Millie came to me already named. So when I asked what her name was, her name was Millie and we kept Millie. But I mean, Chip is kind of cute. The whole Chip and Dale thing's a little much. Yeah.
Chip is cute. I could do Chip. I could even do Dale. I don't think I could do Chip and Dale.
I'm going to ask you not to do Dale, though, because Dale is my dear friend and I can't go and tell him that.
That's right. It'd be so confusing.
It would be so confusing. Plus, I don't want to go tell him that my friend Daniel, my co-host, just named his dog Dale. That doesn't seem quite.
But what if he's the cutest dog?
That's true. That's true.
But they told me he has an adoption pending, which is very good for Lil Chip and Dale, but devastating for me having seen 5 pictures of this dog. So anyway, more dog content potential in the future.
Interesting. I don't think there's going to be any dog related content coming from me for a long time. I am not one of those people who, puts a balm to my soul by adopting or getting a new pet. That's not me. It never has been, and it'll be a while, but never say never. Who knows? Maybe there's some reincarnated Millie out there who is just going to show up in my yard and I'll take her in.
It happens.
That's
how my aunt and uncle got one of their best dogs ever.
Wow.
Just showed up in the yard.
Yeah. All right. Well, good to know. I guess, did I just open myself up for people dumping cats and their kittens and puppies in my yard? All right. Well, I actually have another thing I want to talk about, which I guess it's potentially sad, but I think it's not sad for me. I think it might be potentially sad for other people to hear.
Okay.
You and I talked about we were going to have a kind of a State of the Union here. What's happening? And I've been really, really cagey about my house for the last probably 6 months, off and on talking about, am I selling? Am I not selling? Whatnot. The answer is we are selling.
Whew. Okay.
Yes, it is. And I've had a lot of time to process this. So I'm actually not feeling super sad about that. And oddly, since Millie has passed, I actually feel even better about it. Not because I don't actually know why. I think it's just kind of all these steps are falling into place, which is more of an ending and therefore leading to a new beginning. One of those things was my daughter getting into college, which she did. The other thing is, of course, Millie, I just didn't see a path forward with her moving to a new place. I just couldn't imagine it happening. And so now that that's been taken off the table, I think, like I said, I'm just seeing paths forward. And that feels very good. The reason why I guess I wanted to mention it is because if anybody out there is interested in my house and they want a beautifully cared for 1885 house in Western New York, then I am open to talking about that before I list the house with a realtor. Let me know.
And I will also add here that I've also had the great pleasure of being at Blake Hill House a couple of times. And it's one of those houses that as many pictures as you look at of it, being there is different. It is a magnificent house. So I'm sure it will find a wonderful buyer and hopefully one of you guys. I don't know. That'd be cool.
I know. I would love that. In the past, when I first talked about putting it up for sale, I had a few people. They were like, oh, we heard your house is going to go up for sale and we want it. And it just felt like at that time, though, this was 3 years ago. I was just I wasn't at a place where I could really do that. I was thinking, this is still my house. The body's not even cold yet, people. And that's how it felt to me. Although, in all fairness, that was my own personal response. That was nothing to do with the really kind and thoughtful notes or, things that I got from other people. And I don't fault them for doing that at all. It was just the way I responded to it personally. I just knew I wasn't ready. I just wasn't ready. But now I am. So yeah.
Yeah.
Keep those letters coming.
And can I ask what's next? Where are we going?
Well, yeah, actually, I'm really glad that you asked that because I am also ready to talk about that. Andy and he's in Salt Lake City still. I do plan on going to Salt Lake City. We have been looking, not really seriously, but somewhat seriously, just to understand the market in Salt Lake City for the last 3 years since he's been there. And I've talked about it on this podcast too, about how it's just abysmal. It's high priced, it's unattractive, it's flipped. It looks really, to unflip a flip to me would just be wasteful. So
yes,
we don't need to get into that again. But we kind of got to the point where we were thinking, well, maybe we don't want to buy in Salt Lake City, which is funny. I guess I thought we would definitely buy, even knowing that Salt Lake City is probably not our next or our final step. I don't really have the desire to retire and live in Salt Lake City or Utah for the rest of my life. It's just not for me. And I say that as someone who's lived in Utah before and, has had plenty of good experiences. I just know it's not right for us right now. So we're thinking maybe we'll just stay in the apartment for a while and then actually start looking at other places, sort of leapfrog Salt Lake City altogether and look at places that we want to live after we move from Salt Lake City. After retirement, that's a few years away, but after retirement. It's been really fun to be in this stage because in the past, we've always been really pressured to find a house. You have to find a house. You have to find a school, all these things that you do when you have kids. Well, yeah, there are things you do when you have kids that, you need to make sure they're settled. You need to make sure they have proper healthcare and education and all that stuff. And those are all factors and usually, oftentimes, the primary factor in determining where you live. And to not have to do that is so crazy to me. Like the sky's the limit. So all I'm doing is Zillow this and Zillow that. And maybe I do want to live near the Canadian border in Washington. And maybe I want to live in,
maybe we want a yurt. Maybe we want a earthship.
Yes.
What else can we do?
Maybe we want 2 small locations and 2 completely different places. It's just a really weird situation.
Well, listen, I hesitate to bring it back to this, but I do have those 4 acres. So anytime you want a little desert getaway, I consider it communal land for my friends.
Yeah. I used to think, well, if all else fails, my mom would take me in. She would let me live there. That used to comfort me when I was feeling anxiety about what are we going to do? But now I know if all else fails, I can park my tent on your desert property.
That's right.
And it's all good.
Catch as much water as you want.
Yeah. So some of the places we've been looking at are Port Townsend, Washington. I'm super interested in that area right now. And all in that area.
The PNW.
Yeah. And we're really interested in water and mountains together. We've never lived with water and mountains. We've lived in the desert, so we've had mountains and no water. And now we're kind of like, well, why not both, right?
Sure.
If the sky's the limit. But we also we like the Great Lakes. So economically, that's a heck of a lot better on the wallet than Pacific Northwest or even other places.
Yeah. I mean, can I be honest and say if I were going to move to another state, I think it'd be Michigan.
Same. Yeah.
I really like Michigan.
I do too. And I think I've talked about this before on the show, our trips to the UP. We took some really fun trips to the Upper Peninsula. But yeah, along the shore there, that is definitely high on my Zillow list.
Very cool.
I'm stocking those houses. But a lot of people have asked me if I want an old house. And the answer is yes, absolutely. But I am still looking for something a little newer than 1885 and much smaller, at the very least, much smaller. So
I have never asked you this. Do you have a style that you particularly would love or particularly would not love? I can't imagine living in a Tudor personally.
Yeah. So I like Tudors, but only if they're little. I like a little Tudor. I think they're pretty cute.
Sure.
I don't see myself living in a Queen Anne. I don't see myself, although a folk Victorian, maybe in the right circumstances. But honestly, I would love a cabin, I think. I'd like to live in an old cabin, or I'm really kind of open, I guess. I feel like Blake Hill House is just a very special kind of architecture. And, I'm never getting this house again. And that's okay. That's all right.
It's quite a house.
It is quite a house. I'm looking for sort of no frills. I'd really like something that I could work on and use all traditional materials, traditional paints and things, things where it can be sort of a lab, but also where we live, so that it's not a construction zone all the time, the way I feel like this big house has been. There really isn't. I'm trying to think, is there a house I just wouldn't want to live in? And honestly, I do think it's maybe a Queen Anne. And it's not that I don't admire them. It's just they don't feel like me. Does that make sense?
Just too much.
Yeah, it's too much.
I kind of feel the same way.
Okay. Yeah.
I prefer maybe a little earlier or a little later, but I love those houses. I appreciate those houses. I think I'd have a hard time decor-wise working with it. I think is really challenging.
Well, we were talking about salt box. Remember, we were talking about that, reassembling the salt box. And I truly am interested in something like that. I like almost no ornamentation unless it's just really unique in some way, like, this house that I'm living in right now. I don't know why. I think it's just, for me, it seems simple. And I like sort of a minimalist, simple kind of build. In that regard, I'm very interested in that. But you're not going to find a salt box in the Pacific Northwest, probably,
Right.
unless I move it from that hangar, that airplane hangar.
That's what I'm at. That's my next question. Would you consider it, like, for real?
Well, I would absolutely consider moving a house. It was high on my list. I mentioned it to Andy and he was like, oh, that sounds like a really terrible idea. And then we kind of cycled through this where we found a piece of property in Utah when we were still actively looking there and thought, well, maybe that would be a good place to move a house. And then he was like, yeah, we could do that. And then the last time I asked him, he was like, oh, no, that sounds... So he's going through the peaks and valleys of this process and understand. But I think if I could show him the steps involved, I think it would make more sense. I think at this point, it doesn't make a lot of sense to him. And I feel like I'm a few steps ahead and you're a few steps ahead because we've interviewed all these people on the show or read so many stories about house moving that it doesn't seem as daunting as, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm sure it would be a total nightmare in plenty of different ways, but it just makes more sense to me how the process occurs. And if the right situation came along, I think I could talk him into it. And I know we don't talk a lot about mid-century homes here being historic. Sadly, they are. I say sadly because, the years are ticking away.
I'm not sad about it. That.
The years are ticking away behind me.
I will be sad when we hit like the 80s. That's where I'm going to have a hard time with.
Yeah, it is coming. But I wouldn't mind, moving a mid-century house or something from the 40s or I don't know. But yeah, I'm totally open to it.
Sounds fun. I mean, I'm putting in a vote for house move just because I want to hear all about it. It's very selfish.
Well, I mean, it's kind of selfish for me as well, because I would really just like to go through the process of doing it and sharing the process on social media and talking about it here on the podcast. I'm like, that would be really cool. And I could use traditional materials that I'm so interested in using. Who knows?
Wow. Well, it's really exciting. And I'm relieved to hear you talk about it with some excitement. And
yeah, like I said, I feel like I'm ready. I'm feeling, it's still going to be sad, but I think I'm ready. So yeah.
And you've been 11 years in that house?
11 years. Yeah.
Okay,
11 years.
Yeah.
Time flies when you're raising kids, is what I always say.
You know what's fun to think about maybe is I know that my house was owned for 11 years by a family between 1962 and 1973. And in the course of working on this house and stuff, I've absolutely come to understand that family is really responsible for me being able to restore all of these things now because they didn't rip them out and they did a lot to this house to preserve it. And that will be your story in 50 years. Somebody will be like, this is a Stacy edition.
Well, I hope they look at that with fondness instead of like, oh, that's a Stacy.
No, you have not made a misstep, according to me. Everything's great. It's a
thank you.
Beautiful house. Did I tell you it's a beautiful house?
You did tell me,
okay.
And I appreciate that very much. All right. Well, we need to take a break, and then I want to ask you all about what's been going on with you when we get back.
Oh, boy. Okay.
All right. You ready?
See you on the other side.
True Tales from Old Houses is supported by Sutherland Wells. All of Sutherland Wells products are handcrafted in Providence, Rhode Island, with the highest quality, sustainably grown tung oil. Tung oil, as you know, native to China, has been used for centuries as a durable finish for wood, metal, and stone.
And unlike polyurethanes, tung oil finish penetrates the surface of the wood. We cannot stress this enough. So it flexes and contracts as the conditions change, which makes it the perfect pre-finish or protectant for everything from fine furniture to window sash and sills.
So as you know, I've used several Sutherland Wells products, and I actually have inadvertently said that Millie's was named after my sweet Millie, which is actually incorrect, but I like to think it's true.
It's true.
But even so, Sutherland Wells has an entire product line for whatever you're working on right now. Siding, hardwood floors, furniture restoration, cutting boards, you name it.
To learn more about the complete product line, visit Sutherland Wells, that's WELLES, SutherlandWells.com. And to save 10% on your first order, use the coupon code TRUETALES.
True Tales from Old Houses is also supported by Noonan Heritage Craftworks. You may know Joseph Parenti from Instagram for his work with historic exteriors in the Pittsburgh area. And he's now extending his offerings to homeowners across the United States with Noonan Heritage Craftworks.
I think any old homeowner can relate to the idea that finding the right help to restore and maintain your old house can be an enormous challenge. Knowing where to start, what materials and methods you can use, who can you trust. These are things Joseph is here to help you with.
You can schedule a call, a video conference, or an email consultation with Joseph to talk through your exterior project and help you game plan. So whether you need to prepare, say, a scope of work, maybe you need a second set of eyes to help compare estimates, or even figure out the right questions to ask vendors, Joseph can provide unbiased guidance to help you steer clear of pitfalls and ensure success.
To learn more about how Noonan Heritage Craftworks can work with you, visit our special landing page at Noonan Craftworks. That's Noonan, noonancraftworks.com/true tales.
All right, we're back.
We're back.
If I remember, last episode, you were preparing for a yard sale. Did that happen? And how did it go?
It didn't happen.
No.
Here's what happened. I got too excited about it. And then we pushed it off a week thinking, this will give me actual time to get it together to do it. And then the weather was horrible. And then this weekend, I'm going down to Brooklyn to help my friend get ready for her baby that's coming in 3 weeks. I'm going to be a godfather.
Wow.
I know. And so I think we're a couple weeks off, but it's still happening because there is a massive pile of stuff in my kitchen. So it has to happen.
Well, it'll just give you a little more time to prep and price things and pull out more things that you want to get rid of. So it's all good.
Sure.
When you said you were a couple weeks away, I thought you meant the baby. And then I realized you were still talking about the yard sale. But
well, the baby's also a couple weeks away.
Wow. So Godfather.
It's this month. Yeah. Can you imagine someone choosing that?
Actually, yes. I was going to say, you have been doing so much work on yourself in the last year or two, like the Apple thing.
The Apple thing is huge.
I don't know if anybody missed that from last episode, but yes, you're on a Apple tasting kick.
It's a discovery mission.
A discovery. That's what. It's not a journey. It's a discovery.
Yes. And I have decided Gala is in front of Pink Lady in my
Okay.
ranking.
Good to know. But yeah, so the apples, you've been watching your caffeine intake, trying to get a little more fresh air. So yeah, you've been taking care of yourself. You are ready for this challenge.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, if God forbid they both died, I have a baby.
So sometimes that's not what a godfather means, but is that what it means?
That's what it means here. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
We had the whole conversation.
Oh, you'd be such a good dad.
Gosh.
You'll do
I
great.
know, right? But yeah, hopefully not to this baby, because that would mean very bad things happen to my friends.
Yeah, definitely. And we don't want that to happen. Absolutely. All right. So we're not tempting fate with that sort of conversation. What else has been going on?
What else? Well, I've really been, over the past few months, really trying to think about how the heck I'm going to finish this house I live in here. I think what I have kind of come around to is it is time to maybe dispense with the room by room strategy a little bit and tackle this as more of a comprehensive project.
Okay. I'm going to stop you just for a second, because honestly, I think the room by room strategy is all anybody ever talks about. So
yeah,
well, unless you hire an architect and they handle it all, or a designer or whatnot. But I'm so curious, what does this mean and why are you switching tactics?
Yeah, I think the trade-off will be more chaos, but also a little more efficiency. So the reality is all renovations pretty much divide into phases of work, and those phases go in pretty much the same order. So the challenge with room by room, especially if you're kind of trying to do one right after the other, is you're starting those phases all over again with every single space. And so obviously the more efficient way to renovate a house is to take care of all your electric at first and all your plumbing and get those phases of work just out of the way. So I don't have to be dealing with insulation in 6 months that I just dealt with 6 months ago,
Yeah.
So that's definitely a part of it. Another part of it is for now, I still live in this house by myself with my dog. We can handle that. I think I've probably been about as cagey about this as you have about selling your house, but at some point, the idea is that Brad will move here. And so I don't want him moving into a crazy construction site, both for the sake of our relationship, for the sake of the house, for the sake of everything. So as a result of that thinking, I've been trying to really prep for it. And that's part of where this yard sale thing came out of, is like, I need space. I need to offload, because once I start working, a lot of stuff is going to need to get shoved into another room and whatever, because I do still live here and I will live here throughout this. But I think I'm just kind of at a point 12 years in where I'm tired of living in less than half of this house, essentially. Like, it's silly. It's stupid. Let's get a move on. And I mean, of course, there's a cost implication to this. And I feel like I'm financially, like I can do this the way that I kind of plan to. And
well, you raised a good point. A lot of us room by room people, including yourself, we're working with limited budget. And when you have a little bit more, you sold the cottage, you probably have a little bit of a bigger chunk there.
I squirreled some away. Yeah. I mean, the reality too is like the only really expensive space is the kitchen. Everything else is a lot of work, but I don't see a lot of money getting spent. Like even the bathroom, I don't know. It's an old toilet and an old sink. I'm going to buy a tiled floor. It's a 3-foot by 5-foot floor. Like, I don't know. I mean, how expensive could this get?
This is so exciting.
I'm excited. I'm excited to like get going. And I'm really kind of been dragging my feet on just like the kind of admin side of like, I really have to figure out my cabinet order and like all of this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And
what holds you back?
I don't find it that stimulating.
Oh, okay.
I think cabinet shopping is actually hard, especially if you're trying to do it online. And especially if, I'll be honest, a lot of kitchens I've done have been either IKEA or through a vendor that were really nice cabinets. I don't want them. They're not what I want, but they are really nice. So I'm not super familiar with like, I don't know, when you go to some of these websites, especially for like the RTA cabinets, there are just so many options. And I definitely feel like I need somebody from one of those companies to really like help me through it a little bit. But I'll get there. Appliances, I'm like bored by. Like, I don't want to pick a new refrigerator, but like I have to.
Right. I don't like appliances either because, and maybe this is the case with you too, I don't think you cook a lot. And I know you do. Well,
I'm not going to say a lot. I cook.
Okay. I'm sorry. I put words in your mouth. I was going to say,
how dare.
Yeah. I don't cook a lot. So I don't often know what features I would love or need because I am probably not going to put them to their proper use. Like when I am on Instagram and I see all those fancy stoves and I'm like, lost on me. Just get me something that's going to work and easy to clean. That's always me. Easy to clean.
Well, and that's the funny thing. All those fancy stoves are in no way easy to clean. None of them have self-cleaning options. Like none of them have any features. So that's also what I learned. I designed my kitchen for a 36-inch stove, which I do like having, the extra 6 inches of cooktop to whatever extent it matters. But once you enter that 36-inch, you're in pro style, quote unquote, territory, and all the features go away. So my stove costs twice what a like super nice souped up 30-inch stove costs, but it doesn't even have a preheat. It has nothing.
Oh, interesting.
It's garbage.
Really? That surprises me.
Yeah, I plan to replace that. I actually plan to switch to induction.
Okay. I've heard a lot of good things about induction.
I like it. There was a period where I did not have the stove and it was, I think like 2 years. All I had to cook on was a toaster oven and 2 induction hot plates. And those induction hot plates are so much preferable to the actual quote unquote pro style range I have now. So yeah, I'm good with induction. And I like the ease of cleaning that cooktop. Like I think it's going to work out for me.
I mean, I think I already know the answer to this question, but how long have you been in your house? 11 years, 10 years?
12 years.
12 years. Okay. And you had grand plans at the beginning. And now 12 years later, you're bringing some plans to fruition. Are you glad you didn't do it then? Do you think you would have regretted what you did then?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it took me a few years to kind of wrap my arms around just like the architecture of the house. So, I mean, that's part of this too. I don't want to make it seem like I haven't, everyone knows I've done stuff, but
for sure.
A lot of what has happened with this house is exterior changes caused things on the interior. And so I would have screwed all of that up. I would have screwed up my kitchen layout if I had actually finished the kitchen that I designed because
Interesting.
I don't like it. I've lived with the layout, not my permanent cabinets, not my permanent appliances, things, anything, but the layout is what I designed and I hate it. So we're totally changing the kitchen design. That one will just be in the archives forever.
Are you putting your sink in front of the window?
No, I'm doing a thing I honestly never thought I would say, which is I'm putting in an island, like a kitchen island.
I like my island.
And there will be a sink in it.
Okay.
And that's how we will live.
Wow.
I think I'm liking it. I think I'm going to be into it. It's going to be a modern kitchen. I'm not interested in a fake old British kitchen. It's not for me, but it will certainly read as an old house. It'll be good. Trust me, guys. I don't know.
Oh, I believe you. Do you know what I love? I love your confidence. I love how, and I think it's gotten easier over the years to just be like, this is what I want and this is what I'm going to do. And I'm owning my decision because I don't know. I feel like a couple years ago or whatever, even we would have been a little more timid about ruffling the social media.
Yeah. I mean, that part's never super bothered because I just don't care enough. But
yeah. I would have been more influenced.
I think, you develop confidence.
Yeah. I think, and I keep dragging you into my own issues. So pardon me. Like,
this is group therapy.
Like, we don't cook, do we? We don't do this, do we? But no, I think I would have been more under the influence of what I saw as being right or good or beautiful, 4 or 5 years ago than I am now, where I'm like, nah, it's not for me.
Yeah. Or just like trendy. I mean,
yeah.
We went through a really long period where all kitchens needed to look like Duval kitchens. And I love a Duval kitchen. I cannot afford a Duval kitchen. So all I can really afford is like a bad knockoff of a Duval kitchen. And at that point, I would much prefer a nice modern kitchen that feels, of the time.
Of the time.
Fine. And the reality is, kitchens in this country last 30 years, realistically. So I don't know if I'll be here in 30 years, but this is not a completely permanent, nobody will ever change it decision. It's a kitchen.
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait to see what you come up with.
I just can't wait to have it.
Yeah.
Like, have you ever seen my kitchen sink? It's horrifying.
I don't think I have.
It is a 24-inch shallow garbage stainless steel sink I ripped out of a house almost 10 years ago. Cobbled together a 2x4 stand, not even like new 2x4s, like split, dirty old 2x4, because this was supposed to last a few months. It's been years, so many years. I don't even know how many years. I don't want to know how many years. So
you've gotten your money's worth is what I'm hearing.
Oh, for sure.
When do you think you'll be willing to share more about that? Like, when do you think you might have mood boards or drawings or anything like that you could share?
I'm not going to make mood boards are for other people.
I don't make mood boards either. I can't be bothered unless I have done them before, I should say, but for other people, as you said. But in my head, I just like to just put it together.
Yeah, I don't know when I start.
I should have asked the question, when are you going to make that mood board for me?
I'm going to write it as a narrative, send it to you as a short story.
Yes, sounds good. I'll be looking forward to it.
But it's coming. It's coming soon because it simply must.
Sooner than later.
I will lose my mind otherwise. And that's the state of the union.
We're out of time. That's a good place to stop for today.
All right.
I do want to remind everyone that Michiel Bruns will be on next week. Lots of listener questions answered, and he's just a delightful human. So I think you'll really enjoy that episode.
Absolutely. Don't miss it.
Thank you for listening to True Tales from Old Houses. Until next time.
See you next week.